So at this point, when it comes to former NBA players, we know some of these guys have absolutely horrendous takes. And there's one podcast out there that just produces the absolute worst of the worst. As in today's video, you have former NBA All-Star Kenyon Martin saying Luka Doncic isn't the best player on his own team.
Is Luka the best player on his team?
Is he?
Production-wise. I didn't ask you that. Enough said. But in MVP, he's the fourth best player in the NBA compared to the bullshit list from the other day. He in the MVP conversation, and in my opinion, I don't think he's the best player on his basketball team. But that's for never mind. Move on.
Now, stopping the clip right there, what I see is one guy being absolutely delusional, and two other guys not really having the heart to tell their friend he's out of his mind. Because this take right here is borderline insanity. Because Luka Doncic, really since his rookie year, has been Dallas' best player every single season. And I do find it pretty comical Gilbert Arenas says, production-wise, yes, Luka is their best player. Now, what are we measuring the best players by? Is it not production, overall output, input, and their impact on winning? Isn't that what we measure guys with when talking the best players in the world? And the fact they had to add that caveat, like Luka's only better production-wise, not the actual player, again, is pretty insulting to Luka. As looking at last year with Dallas, he really did everything for them. Led them in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. And compare the entire NBA, was top 10 in scoring and assists. And when it comes to playoff Luka Doncic, I think all of us for the most part need a reminder of how great that guy is. As for his career, he is averaging 32.5 points per game, that is second only to Michael Jordan all time. And so far in his career, he has never averaged less than 29 points per game in a single playoff series. And since entering the NBA, has 8 40-point playoff games, tied with Giannis and Jimmy for the most during that stretch. To question if a guy like this, an elite playoff performer, elite impact guy, is the best player on his own team, it's pretty asinine.
Just sip my tea. This is.
Okay, so who's the best player on the Mavs if Luka's not?
Hey, I know one. Put it like this, when people be talking about one-on-one, I know if you ask Dinwiddie who's the best one-on-one player there, I guarantee it won't be who they think it is. Won't be Luka.
You know what I'm saying? Guarantee you line them up, let them play ones.
Oh, he couldn't be. Dinwiddie said, he got mopped every time.
Yeah, every time, dog. And you line him up against Kyrie, it'll be listen, he might don't touch the ball. If you give Kyrie the ball first, Luka might won't touch the ball.
11-0?
Hey.
Luka can't guard this goddamn camera stand.
Now, stopping that clip right there, let me get this straight. The argument for Kyrie Irving being better than Luka, let me check my notes, is that Kyrie in practice is a better 1v1 player. Not the game, we're talking about practice and a 1v1. Hey, look, to me, that argument is solid, foolproof. There's no holes in that argument whatsoever. Of course, sarcasm. These guys' fascination with 1v1 basketball, it is pretty tiring. As looking at the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic, I wouldn't call Jokic a 1v1 god and the best 1v1 guy in the NBA. But despite that, due to his impact and production, he is the best in the world. Even looking at someone like Giannis, who I think is a top 3 player. I don't think Giannis at this point in his career, even still, could beat Kevin Durant in a 1v1. Because KD, quite literally, is built for 1v1 scenarios. And looking at Steph Curry, I would argue the second best player in the world. In a 1v1 versus Kyrie, he would struggle and probably lose more times than he would win. Does that make Kyrie Irving a better player than Steph Curry? Absolutely not. Because as you guys know, 1v1 in practice doesn't determine who's the better overall player in 5v5 basketball. And of course, when it comes to these guys on our podcast, are there any stats, any numbers, any facts, any cold hard data they bring up in these debates? Of course not, they're just talking. Looking at Luka Doncic last year, on ISO scoring, Luka quite literally was the best ISO scorer in the NBA, averaging 7.9 points per game on 45.2% shooting. Let me repeat that. Luka last year was the best ISO scorer in the entire NBA. And if you want to build off 1v1 play, look at 2v2 play. Luka last year in the pick and roll ranked 4th in scoring at 10.8 points per game on 51.8% shooting. If you love 1v1 so much, love 2v2 so much, and despise 5v5 basketball, Luka still is the best player on Dallas.
Yeah, and that's the thing with real basketball people. If your numbers don't equate to something, they just numbers. And I look at you, who you are and what you're doing, and I look at Kyrie like, shit. Yeah, give me 11.
Yep.
Give me number 11.
So stopping it right there, I absolutely love this clip. First off, Kenyon Martin, he has to stress, he's a real basketball person. These guys in this room are real basketball people. You know, they know ball, they get ball. Secondly, he tries to imply Luka Doncic puts up empty stats that don't lead to wins. But at the same time, is arguing Kyrie Irving is the better overall player despite less playoff success in the past 5 seasons. That right there is a tangled mess of contradictions. As looking at Luka in the past 5 years, as an individual playoff performer, he's been light years better than Kyrie Irving. In terms of playoff success, also more successful than Kyrie. As looking at playoff Luka, he averaged 32.5 points, 9.3 boards, 7.9 assists on 47-37 and 69 splits. Compared to Kyrie Irving, who only averaged 21.9 points, 5.1 boards, 5.2 assists on 43-35 and 93 splits. Verifiably, Kyrie Irving as a playoff player compared to Luka Doncic is only a better free throw shooter. And I want to stress this, Luka since day one has a number 1 option on all of his teams. Compared to Kyrie, who over the past 5 years has rarely if ever been the number 1 option. And if you look at Kyrie as the number 1 guy, what he led his team to was a second round exit in 2019 versus Milwaukee Bucks. In that series, Kyrie was absolutely abysmal, shooting a piss poor 35% from the field. And the farthest Kyrie's gone as the number 2 option in the post-LeBron James era is Game 7 versus the Bucks in 2021. But in typical Kyrie fashion that year, he got injured in Game 4 and wasn't even available in Games 5, 6, and 7. I want to be clear in saying this, I don't hate Kyrie Irving, despise him as an NBA player. But when you say he's better than Luka Doncic, when it's verifiably not true, objectively wrong, you gotta push back on that pretty hard. And I do want to hammer this point home, Luka Doncic as the guy made the Western Conference Finals, beating a 64-win Suns team in the process. That run in 2021 as a number 1 option was better than any Kyrie run in the past 5 seasons. As post-LeBron James, not once has Kyrie made the conference finals. And again, using Kenyon's own logic, if your numbers don't equate to something, they're just numbers. So considering Luka in the past 5 years has more playoff success with much better numbers, Kenyon Martin right here has checkmated himself. And a general rule of thumb going forward, if your argument for one player being better than the other hinges on 1v1 play in practice, you might not have much of an argument. Just reference for in future debates. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.